So it has come to our attention that NGOs, the foreign funded types at least, are up in arms about the new proposed amendments to the sort of intelligence legislation of South Africa. Because according to the new amendments, if you want to start an NGO or a church in South Africa, you have to be vetted first.
A certain foreign-funded journalist wrote in the Daily Maverick, a foreign-funded newspaper by foreign NGOs. They're not very happy that apparently NGOs and the agenda that they push in this country is being curtailed. All the government wants to do is just seek to actually understand them. They want to know who does what, who's involved, and who's funding it. I don't really see why that's such a big deal.
But according to this particular journalist in the Daily Maverick, of course, we are following in the footsteps of the most authoritarian countries in the world, like Russia and China. She failed to mention India, though. Apparently that's not authoritarian, even though they've banned most NGOs.
Yeah, and what you may find is that there are other places around the world that have banned NGOs too. And we have to look at this and say, well, this is a bit racist. I mean, come on. Like, the black government wants to know what's going on, who's coming here and who's pushing certain laws. And we, having looked at some of these laws, also question the legitimacy of them. But if you give that power to a black government, all of a sudden it's like, that's a bit. It's against free speech. Yeah, that's the one, free speech. Because obviously, it's free speech when they want to push an agenda here. But when you say the virus of unknown specification came from a certain country of unlabeledness, and that the most safe and secure vaccine of all time is great, the minute you question that, that's not free speech anymore. That's misinformation, and you're wrong. So how come they can spread misinformation and we can't? They can question the narrative, we can't. But the minute we say, guys, we just like to know who you are so that we know why you might be saying certain things, it's like, oh, no, that's against free speech.
This law could be very good to determine who funds foreign funded NGOs that allow all sorts of crap to happen in this country. It allows hijacked buildings to occur. It allows immigrants to come into the country. It allows for the degradation of the school system as well. So if we can vet these NGOs before they're allowed to stake their claim in this country, I think that's actually a very good idea. Because believe it or not, unfortunately, we are a democracy and we have to abide by the democratic values set out by the Constitution. You can agree or disagree, but those are the facts. NGOs have no democratic mandate to be here. Let's give them a mandate to be here, which is what the ANC is trying to do, which is not a bad thing.
Lotus Eaters came up with this test, Ramon. We haven't even discussed it prior to this, but Lotus Eaters came up with this test, and they said, in order to determine whether or not an NGO is sound or not, you should ask yourself a question. If I take that NGO out of the country and I plant it anywhere else in the world, will it survive? And the answer is, let's take AfriForum. You can take AfriForum, you can put it in, say, France. Will it survive? Like, fuck no. Of course it won't. Take Gun-Free South Africa and take it to France. Gun-Free France. Works just fine, man. Those NGOs, they were hunky-dory abroad. The green energy, come decarbonize yourself. Turn off your coal power stations. If we take that to Australia, does it still work? The answer is yes. Right? Take Solidariteit, put it in Australia. Does it still work? No, man, it's dead. It's dead. Don't work. That's the question we should be asking. So what exactly do you think the ANC is in effect trying to do here? It's trying to go, well, who are you? Why are you here? And if you are here, where's the money coming from? Because let's face it, the rules and the laws that you put in place have an impact on the national people. But they might not necessarily be from nationalists. They might not be from organizations that have South Africa's best interests at heart. It might be from globalists, Ramon. But that would be a conspiracy theory, right? And we don't believe in conspiracy theories, do we?
I mean, we know that globalists only want, liberal democracy and women to get the vote and, your children to change their gender at primary school. There's nothing wrong with any of that, of course. That is sarcasm, people. Please don't take me literally. However, I think that test of the Lotus Eaters that you spoke about, Byron, is actually a very good one. Because which are the NGOs that we like? All the Afrikaans ones, for the most part. We like all of them. We like Gift of the Givers quite a lot. There are a lot of NGOs entrenched in townships that help, poor people with food, that help orphans and things like that. I mean, those NGOs need to be protected, need to be funded, and, need to survive and exist because they do good for the South African public. But when you have an NGO coming in and saying, oh, we want to change the way the education system works, or we want to change the way a foreign immigrant is viewed without a visa, that's not democratic. That's pushing an agenda that is not in the best interests of South Africa. So those people need to be vetted by the security agency, as it's done in India, as it's done in Russia, as it's done in China, as it's done in many, many countries around the world. Let's have a bit of transparency from the NGO sector for once.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's a problem. These individuals apply a rule as if the whole world's the same. We're not the same. Every country has different people. We have different religions. We have different demographics. We have a different genetic makeup. We all believe in different things. So to come here with a rule that applies to France and go, it will be fine in South Africa. It's like taking a tree from France, planting in South African soil and being like, why is it not thriving? It's not made for that soil, buddy. Who the freak ever voted for gun-free South Africa? The answer is no one. But they were fundamentally instrumental in drafting the Firearms Control Act. The Firearms Control Act and the Amendment Bill was basically out of their laboratory. Where's their democratic mandate? It doesn't exist. At least AfriForum has a degree of a democratic mandate in that it has 300,000 South African citizens paying their membership to AfriForum. Many of these NGOs can't say the same. They're funded by George Soros, who sits in some other country.
The particular article was written by someone called Heidi Swart. She is from Intel Watch, who, guess what, is an NGO funded by foreign interests. I mean, the irony sort of just writes itself. Now, there is a disclaimer. If this law was proposed by anyone other than the ANC, would you support it? Don't take this view as a pro-ANC view. Take this video as a this piece of legislation view. If the ANC has good ideas, we will say it's a good idea. We're not expecting to vote for it. We're certainly not going to vote for it. But at the end of the day, look at legislation in terms of the legislation itself, not actually who has promoted it.
Whether ANC does something stupid, we'll call them out. Whether they do something that we agree with, we'll say. And in this instance, we agree with it.